Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today we have a video for you talking about start collecting the Scathborn. So we're going to go through exactly who are the Scathborn in this video and how you can start collecting an army of them. So let's get cracking into a little bit of lore to start with, and we'll come back talking a little bit more rule side after that. The Scathborn, also known as the Trueborn, Shadowborn, or Morathi's Handmaidens, are those creatures formed from the elf souls regurgitated by Slaanesh and reformed by Morathi. They are the Melusai and the Khinerai, elves whose new and twisted forms are often kept out of sight from outsiders, either hidden away in darkened shrines or veiled by illusion. Most sects treat all Scathborn as elite formations within the Daughters of Khaine, where they hold higher individual and unit ranking than their more commonly kin from the Sisterhood of Blood, normally the Witch Elves and Sisters of Slaughter. Certainly, Morathi uses them exclusively for her own Honor Guard, the vaunted Viperic Guard, as well as Aerial Harbingers formation. The exception are the Craif, as they are wanderers with no dedicated temples of their own and have less opportunity to create and hide their own Scathborn. They do not count them amongst their number hidden by illusion, but tend to rank them less highly than other sects. So before we get into anything else, talking I guess specifically about how we can start up a Scathborn army and all of that, we need to talk a little bit about exactly what it is that this army is. And so to start with, obviously, as you can previously see, it's a Daughters of Khaine army. Now, the Scathborn, as I previously mentioned in the narrative section before this, are the more elite looking Daughters of Khaine. They are the ones that are cursed to sort of embody Morathi's appearance that she took on while she was in Slaanesh's belly. So they are the snake models and the harpy models. So the Melusai and Khinerai, as they are known in Warhammer Age of Sigmar. What's cool is you do have access to play a all Scathborn army. There are ways you can make the snake models battle line. There is no way currently to make harpies battle line, the Khinerai, but you can make the Melusai battle line, which is cool. So this means you can do so, and there are a couple of different characters you can choose to make that happen. Any of the snake character models now unlock the snakes as battle line. You do have a dedicated sub-faction that really does push you towards taking a lot of Scathborn models, so this is really cool. It gives us a place to go and find, and really sort of helps put this army on the table in a very good way. You can play mixed arms with Scathborn as well, as they do have access to range and shooting. The Scathborn have both archers for the Melusai and a javelin thrower heart-render models for the Khinerai, and they also have combat variations of both as well. Not to mention, you've also got characters, none for the Khinerai at the moment, but you have a bunch of Melusai characters from the Iron Scale to the Blood Rack Medusa, who can either be on her cauldron or on foot. You've then got a lower model count than your general Daughters of Khaine army, which makes sense. These are more elite, so while you'll generally be playing with blocks of 30 Witch Elves, you might not find that you're running quite as many Scathborn models in an army. You may have unit sizes, may be comparable in some situations, but you'll generally have a much lower model count. The one downside I would say is if you're going to remain true to your Scathborn theme that you're going to do in your army, is that you're going to have no priests, as the only priests in the army are the Hag Queens and the Slaughter Queens. However, I have seen some fantastic conversions from a bunch of people. You should definitely go check out @StrengthHammer on Twitter. He has some amazing Scathborn conversions for his Hag Priests and Slaughter Queens, so definitely go give that a check out. But if you're looking to just run the models as is, there is no current priest models available for Scathborn. But now we've got that all out the way, let's get looking into where we should start with some models. And so, where exactly do we start with building a Scathborn Daughters of Khaine army? Well, I think the perfect place to start is picking up the Start Collecting box. This gives you the Cauldron of Blood Rack Shrine dual kit model, which will give you a good character to start with your force, and it also gives you 5 Melusai. Melusai being the Snake Ladies. I would also pick up another box of Melusai as well, as this gives you your full battle line complement when you are needing to build towards your first 1,000 points of an army. Now, the things with this is, first of all, you are going to get some models that are not Scathborn. So once again, this is completely up to you whether you want to include priests. This is the only way to get priests into your army if that's what you want to do. But for the purpose of this video, we're not going to include them just because we are trying to build a pure Scathborn army. Now, however, you could easily make some cool conversions with another box of Melusai or even your Bloodwrack Medusa to make a cool Hag Queen or Slaughter Queen model, and that is definitely an option. But note, you will get a Slaughter Queen, a Hag Queen, and the Avatar of Khaine if you build the Bloodwrack Shrine. Now, if you choose to put the Bloodwrack Medusa on foot, you will be able to put one of the two characters on top, but also lose your Avatar of Khaine model because that will now become part of the shrine. Now, what's cool about the Melusai kit is it is a dual kit between both the Blood Sisters and the Blood Stalkers, so you can build either variation you want because both do become battle line when you've got a Bloodwrack Medusa or Melusai character as your general. So this can either be, as mentioned, the Bloodwrack Medusa on foot, the Bloodwrack Shrine, or the Melusai Iron Scale. So any of those unlock battle line option of snakes, which is cool. So you can build one of each if you wish, and maybe that's the correct way to go to start with. Giving you an idea of how both units play. I think they're both decently effective. Both put out mortal wounds in different variations. The Melusai have an effect where at the end of combat they roll a dice for each model in the unit and they do some mortal wounds, while the snakes with the bows, the Blood Stalkers, put mortal wounds out on a 6 on the 2-hit roll. Well, where to next, I guess, after we've got that initial sort of army put together? Where can we go to start expanding this army up to 1,000 points? So we're going to look at a few options we have for Scathborn to build up our force. And so none more impressive, I guess, to start with than the Melusai Iron Scale. This is the other character you have besides the two variations that you get in the Start Collecting box. And you could always go buy another one of those Start Collecting boxes, maybe to get yourself some more Melusai and another Bloodwrack Medusa, maybe on foot now or on Shrine, depending which one you built originally. But I think going and getting a Melusai Iron Scale is a cool thing. So first of all, this is going to give run and charge to other Melusai units. This is really going to help them, as this is probably one of the major negatives that Melusai have that otherwise Witch Elves get. So Witch Elves, because of their Hornblower, get run and charge naturally, which is really cool. So the fact you can now get that with your Melusai Iron Scale is a great thing, allowing these models here to be quite quick on the table, especially when you consider they are a base movement of 8. You add run and charge into that and it can be quite nasty. They can get a boss across the board very, very quickly. This also allows you to get your combat units, obviously, across the board, but it also allows the shooting units to be able to move around and have a very large range of effect thanks to this as well. As it not only provides run and charge, it gives run and shoot out as well. So this can make your bow snakes have a massive range of effect on the table, meaning you can add the 24-inch range of their weapons to an 8-inch range of the bow plus a run. This can be almost 40-inch on average, which is just fantastic threat range to have across the board. Now, we've also got the different units of Khinerai available to us as well. We have, for starters, we have the Khinerai Heartrenders, who are a more shooting variation of the Khinerai. They have a ranged attack with their barbed javelins, which is pretty decent, and they descend into battle, which both Khinerai units do. They can sort of deep strike wherever they want, meaning your opponent cannot leave objectives unguarded. They've also got some great effects where they can run and shoot, or they can throw their javelins and then get a free move. And they also get some decent saves as well, thanks to their shields, putting them up to a 5-up save, which is pretty decent for, I guess, elves with next to no armor on. And you've got just some other little effects there as well, where if the unit has been set up in the same turn, they add an additional rend to their barbed javelins, which is pretty darn cool, because both their combat and their shooting profile go up to rend 2, making them pretty useful to have on the table. We've then got the Khinerai Life Takers, who are the other version of Khinerai, and they're much more close combat orientated. They have the same sort of rules where they can deep strike and set up like that, how you can talk about all that sort of stuff, 9-inch away from enemy units, all that same sort of normal restriction to expect with every unit in the game. They've got Fight and Flight, where they can make a move after they're fought on a roll of a 4+. They've also got Death on the Wind, which is another cool rule that they have, where they add 1 to the damage characteristics of their barbed sickles and improve the rend of 1 as well if they made a charge move, making this unit very deadly on the deep strike charge because they suddenly start punching out a whole host of different attacks. They have 2 attacks each, 3s to hit, 4s to wound, so you can imagine how putting some bonuses on that with adding damage and rend to that makes them quite nasty. They've also got the Heart Piercer Shield, which means that they get +1 to the save, and they can also splash back some mortal wounds as well when they roll some successful saves. So they're a pretty decent unit with great offense, and they're quite fast. They have a base movement of 14, which is just amazing. But let's look at how we can put this all into practice on the next slide. We're going to have a short little army list for 1,000 points of where you can start to go with all the information we've given here, and you can use that to hopefully build up a larger force if need be in the future. And so now we're going to talk a little bit about our sample army and an army we've put together to hopefully either give you an idea of an army where you can go or get some thoughts going of your own to make your own Scathborn or Scathbone focused list. Now, we're going to choose to be in the Xantha Kai Temple because this gives our Scathborn a whole bunch of bonuses that we really like. And the first of those is just flat out all Scathborn units, so that's Khinerai and Melusai units that are Xantha Kai get +1 bravery. That's just cool. You don't want to be taking battle shock tests on these elite models because you'll lose much quicker with them, and they don't particularly have that higher bravery, so a nice +1 is nice. It also combines really well with the fact we're going to be taking certain spells later. We've then got access to an additional artifact as well, which allows one of our characters to have an artifact on top of the generic one we get for just being a normal army, which is cool, meaning 2 characters, 1,000 points, you're likely to get an artifact on both because you're not likely to take a battalion at such low points, but it's a really cool thing to have access to. Now, let's talk about our general. She's going to be a Bloodrack Shrine, and she's going to have the command trait Curse of the Bloody Handed, which is the command trait she has to have by being a Xantha Kai general. But it's pretty decent and combines well with the rest of the stuff a Bloodrack Medusa does as she puts out an aura of agony and all those mortal wounds from her stare and everything. She's generally quite close range, and she does it so at the end of the combat phase. If she's in combat, you roll a dice for each enemy unit within 3 inches of her, and on a 5+, they suffer D3 mortals. Nice little extra bit of mortal wound splash that what she's already going to be doing. For an artifact, we're going to give her our spare second one because I think the artifact for Xantha Kai goes a little bit better on our other character we've chosen, and she's going to have the Shadowstone spell. What this does, it just gives her a nice +1 to cast. That's mainly useful because we've given her a spell on her choice that is generally a little bit harder to cast, and that spell is Mind Razor. Mind Razor is really cool as it gives you +1 rend and +1 damage on your weapons. It's really awesome, and this works when you charge, so pretty decent spell to put on some of those Blood Sisters or even the Khinerai Life Takers to make them really, really punchy. You combine this with the fact when the Khinerai Life Takers drop down, they get that +1 damage, +1 rend, so this means they're +2 damage, +2 rend. Really, really nice. Now, Mind Razor does have a casting value of 8, so this is why we've gone for the Shadowstone. However, if you're not confident in getting your Mind Razor off, she does have a fantastic War Scroll spell that is -1 to wound, which combines really well with the Life Takers again because they have a 4+ to wound, so this can mean they will be on 3s and 3s when they drop down. Pretty nice. Now, other characters in Melusai Ironscale who has some cool abilities, but one of them, she gives +1 attack out. However, this only works when she attacks first, so we need to give something to her that makes it a little bit survivable, and that's why I think the Crimson Talisman, which is the artifact we have to give to our character first in a Xantha Kai army, is a good shout. The Crimson Talisman makes her -1 to wound in combat, which is nice. Now, we've got a command ability as well that both our characters have access to, and it pretty much gives any Xantha Kai Scathborn unit, Melusai or Khinerai, +1 attack. So you combine this with the Melusai Ironscale, and you can really see you start to pump those Blood Sisters up with attacks if you get your combinations off in the right order. Looking into battle line, we've got 10 Blood Sisters and 5 Blood Stalkers. I've gone for the Blood Sisters mainly because we've got a lot of combat potential here and a lot of buffs that work in combat and when charging, so I think they're the unit that are better to invest in at this point. For our other units, we've got 10 Khinerai Life Takers and 5 Khinerai Heart Renders. Now, once again, we're taking the combat variation just because I think they're the way to invest at this early stage, though definitely as you get building a bigger army, you can definitely spread out and get that shooting more effective. Once again, we're just taking the Life Takers in the large unit because they're the combat variation, and the heart renders are the shooting variation in the smaller unit. Both of these units are really great to have around though, because 2 deep strikers in such low points is really, really good. Lastly, we're going to take an endless spell, and that is the Bloodrack Viper. Now, you had to spare 40 points because we actually had to spare 90 points. We took an extra command point mainly because we're going to be using them a lot, and you really want to make sure this army can't get alpha striked or anything in the first turn, so you're going to need that command point or potentially to give extra attacks to your units to make them that much more killy. So we've got the extra command point and then 40 points spare. Why not take the Bloodrack Viper, which is a nice little endless spell. You rock up to a unit, you roll 3 dice, and for each one that hits above the wounds characteristic or equals it of the model in that unit, you slay a model. This is really cool at taking out opponents' characters as well, because if they're a 5 or 6 wound character, you go up to them, roll 3 dice, and on a 5 or 6, one of their characters dies. It's pretty nice, you know, you got a 50% chance there on most of the time to kill a 6 wound character, and you've got you know, just some good odds on actually taking out those sorts of characters, or just doing 3 wounds in general to a 1 wound model unit. It's pretty cool. But this is a nice little offensive Zainthar Kai list I've cocked up, and hopefully everyone here can get an idea of how to build a Zainthar Kai list and use this to their advantage, and hopefully build some cool lists from it. Love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Well, we hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And also, if you've got any questions or any thoughts about Zainthar Kai and a Scathborn army, do leave them down in the comments below as well. While you're at it, why don't you come chat more with me and other members of our little community on our Discord server, which we've got a link to down in the description of the video. And while you're on YouTube, go check out the featured channel section on my channel for a bunch of other fantastic Warhammer Age of Sigmar content creators that do everything from battle reports, tactical videos, lore videos, painting videos, and more besides. Lastly though, we'd like to give a shout out to everyone who supports the channel via Patreon or YouTube members, and that is to James, AJC, JC, Christian Weir, Philip Ward, Soren, Kenny Lowell, Alder and Shot First, Cowspawn, James Crowder, and Andrew Jarvis. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel, and if you'd like to help support the channel like they do, you can do so by following the link down to those down to the Patreon and YouTube members down there in the description of the video. Thank you all for watching though. Stay safe everyone, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the grey. Ciao for now.